The Chicago Bulls have been one of the hottest teams in the Eastern Conference, and we're going to be talking about how their recent play is not only going to help them this season, but it will help them next season. This is your host, Rico Greenhowe, and you have found yourself on another episode of Bulls Digest. And so in today's episode, we are talking about the Chicago Bulls and their recent play and how this is not only going to impact them this season, but it is really going to open up another door for this team next season. And so before we go ahead and jump into the content of today, I wanted to remind you that 72.7% of you that watch are not subscribed to the channel. So make sure that you go ahead and you slam dunk on that subscribe button, as it means a lot to us here at Bulls Digest as we try to reach our end of the season subscriber goal. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the content for today. And so we are looking at an article that is on Bleacher Nation. This is written by Elias Schuster. And so within this article, he's previewing the game that is going to take place here against the Los Angeles Lakers, but he is also putting up a quote that came from 670 The Score. This is Billy Donovan interviewing there and talking about just how important winning is to player development. And so in talking about just how important that is to player development, it just made me think about just what this team has been doing and why this is really something that I think as Chicago Bulls fans we should be excited about, and why I think that what is happening in this season certainly will translate going into next season regardless of the results that happen this year. And so let's start with the first point and these winning habits here. And so with winning habits, the first thing that comes to mind is a quote that I think maybe a lot of us have heard, which is winners win. And I think to get to that, you have to develop winning habits. And winning habits in basketball, to me, that means that you are, not hurting yourself with the turnovers. That means that when you're getting into your offense, you're running your sets, you're doing the things that you've been coached to do. Defensively, you're competing your tail off, which is what we see with this team out there. You're doing all the basic things out there, and you're doing those over and over again, and you're playing with the correct energy. You're coming into these things, in that way. And that is just the winning habits that you want to really instill with this group. And, I've said this before, that it doesn't matter if we get Cooper Flagg in here. I don't care, whoever the number one prospect is, you name them. If you get them here and you don't have winning habits, I think that is still, going to set you up for failure. And I think it still would set that player up for failure, regardless of how much success that they have had. They could have a winning mentality, but if you come to a team where they are just not focused on winning at a high level, then I think that you are certainly not going to be in a very good, successful environment there. And so talking about these winning habits and just winning games and the importance of this. And so this goes into what Billy Donovan had to say in this particular piece. And so we're just going to paraphrase this a bit, but he's talking about, just the difference of opinions that we've had around the Chicago Bulls this year. And so, we've obviously heard, hey, we should be tanking and, hey, we should be geared towards free agency and all this stuff like that. But he's talking about, look, how important it is to go out there and play some winning basketball, because, everybody gets, talking about the future with, these draft classes and stuff like that. But when you get into winning situations, that is important that you actually get a chance to play in these games, because this is something that does help your development. And so he's talking about if you don't get that, it hurts your development, as you can see for yourself. And so, I think point number one, you're building winning habits, and I think winning habits will absolutely translate to next season. And so next up, another thing here for the Chicago Bulls, and another reason why I think that we're in a good situation moving forward for next season, is the Chicago Bulls are playing the right way. Because when you look at just what they've been able to do over the last course of games, they're 8-2 over their last 10. They've won 3 in a row. They're 19-18 on the road. Just going into some of the games, like the Lakers game, look, they turned the Lakers over 21 times. That led to 27 points. And so we outscored them 27-14 with the turnover advantage. And so that's plus number one. And then number two, you're holding, a future Hall of Famer in LeBron James, and then Luka, who knows what happens. He might be, depending on how his career projects, but they had 12 turnovers combined. And so I think that when you're doing things like this in the course of basketball games, I think that this is something that absolutely has to, I think, translate for you moving into next season, because now you're saying to yourself, like, look, we have done that against elite talent in this league, and we've come out on the winning side of things. And so I think that from an experience standpoint for a younger player and understanding playing the right way on the defensive end, right, this is something that certainly translates. And then when you look at just the points in the paint and the way that the Chicago Bulls have been able to really get it done as far as that is concerned, like, that is something that absolutely, I think, translates for you, because when you look at that Kings game, the Bulls outscored the Kings 60-48 in the paint. And this is something that we really struggled with, I think, throughout the year, which was stopping opposing teams from scoring a lot in the paint. So not only defensively does that translate, but I think offensively, you are starting to see a team that is now understanding that, yes, we are trying to play fast. Yes, we're trying to shoot the three ball, but we can also still attack teams, and it doesn't necessarily have to be with our bigs out there. And that has been a huge difference. This team playing the correct way and really utilizing the guards and getting downhill, it is opening up a ton of things, and it is causing just havoc on teams. And so playing the correct way is certainly going to translate for this team, especially this would be year 2 in this new system that we are playing. Because remember, going into training camp, Billy Donovan was talking about how he wanted to play faster. We want to shoot the three-point shots up because we just don't have the personnel to go into these half-court battles. And so you have got to love the way the Chicago Bulls have been executing right now with just these principles and playing the correct way, which leads me to the next point here in effort, right? And so effort is something that absolutely will translate for the Chicago Bulls. I don't care, what we're doing, who we have on the team. When you're talking about playing with the right effort, I think about the teams when we had Joakim Noah. I'm talking about when we had Tibbs, when we had Jimmy Butler, like, just, you can name them, the teams that we've had. Those teams that play with that type of energy, that type of effort, I think that you always have a chance in any game. And I know that talent is huge in this league, but that is part of the battle. And I think about Marcus Smart, and when he was talking about being a great defender, that has nothing to do with just going out there and it's just all skill. That is all will. And I think that every time that you see this Bulls team step on the court and they play with that type of effort, that type of energy, that is something that absolutely translates. And you know that as their skill level picks up, that is something that I think it elevates this team to the next level as well. And so that's another thing that I think translates. And so next, when you look at the Chicago Bulls team and just what we've had to do with this team, with the trades and things like that, you are seeing players that have had to step in and they've really had to take on different roles. And so when we're talking about different roles, we're talking about some of these younger players like Modest Buzelis, Dalen Terry, Julian Phillips. Like, I think putting them out there, and then, like, for Modest Buzelis, let's start there. Him having to start now in the second half of the season, he's starting. He's having to really just adjust now to the scouting report that way. I think that you certainly get scouted differently when you're starting. And then also, too, he is starting to see that now that teams are planning for him being a starter, he's had to adjust. And I think he's doing a brilliant job. He's gone from a player that started off as just standing in the corner to now putting it on the deck, which means putting the basketball on the ground and dribbling it and attacking. He's being aggressive. And even if it doesn't work out, he looks fluent. He looks comfortable. And defensively, he continues to show growth as a rim protector. And quietly, I know there's not a lot of statistics out there, but his on-ball defense has looked, I think, very good at times as well. And it's showing me that he is trending towards being a terrific two-way player. Now, I'm not saying he's completely there. He does blow assignments and things like that still, but this is what you want to see as far as taking on a new role, and he takes it on with just that kind of mentality that we love, that he wants to succeed. And then with Julian Phillips and Dalen Terry, look, Julian Phillips has played, I think, terrific basketball. I think he's really come out and he's carved out a niche for himself. I think that he's really, to me, I can count on him to knock down the three ball. And I think defensively, I know the energy that I'm going to get from him. I think it's all about him just taking another step forward as an offensive player now and using that athleticism and being more of a slasher. And I think that comes with Billy Donovan going out there putting him in situations to go, hey, you're not going to get pulled for your mistakes. You're part of the rotation. Go out there and get it. And I think that as Julian Phillips continues to get this confidence, you're going to see more from him. And Dalen Terry, look, Dalen Terry was special for us on this West Coast trip. I mean, there was one point in time where he just wasn't missing three-point shots. He had a great game against the Rockets. He had a terrific game against the Nuggets. And look, man, I'm not saying that either one of these players are going to necessarily be starters for us, but they are showing us that, look, if you are improving this basketball team, which we should definitely expect for this team to still do so, these are players that can absolutely be on your team and you can depend on as role players to come off the bench. And at times when injuries do occur, you have the trust, you have the belief that they are able to step in and still help your team win games. That's what it's all about when it comes down to being a role player and being a very good role player in this league. And so I know that they are not elite, but man, they are showing us these type of flashes. And I think that this has to translate into next season. And lastly, look, this goes into player development. I think that this is another reason why I think that we should really be excited for next season, the player development, because I just talked about what these guys have done. It's Buzelis, Julian Phillips, Dalen Terry, how they've really developed. But also, too, we have got to give, some of our other stars the credit as well, because when you look at Josh Giddey, you look at Coby White, you look at what they've been able to do. Look, Josh Giddey, since the All-Star break, I saw a stat, 22.6 points a game, 10.2 rebounds a game, 9.1 assists a game, and I think he's got a 10.3 plus minus rating, and so that is terrific when you're talking about efficiency. But here's the thing that I've loved about Josh Giddey is that the effort level on the defensive end has picked up, and I love it when you see him mixing it up with Luka and getting Luka to get the technical fouls. Like, I love that grittiness. I think that that's something that certainly will translate, but more importantly, he is taking a lead now. I mean, he's gone out there, and I think quietly he might have been, or he might be actually our best player since Zach LaVine got traded, and not too far behind him has been Coby White. And I think that his development right now is taking on more of a lead scorer role for this team and understanding, okay, they're playing me this way. And yes, I can knock down the three ball, but I can still help this team by getting to the lane. And even if it doesn't go in, I know how to draw contact. And that's also something that we're seeing from Josh Giddey as well. The player development has been there. And I think that this is what you love to see. They're not only in a winning situation right now, but these guys are developing right in front of our eyes. And I think that no matter who you bring in next season, Josh Giddey, Coby White, Buzelis, Julian Phillips, Dalen Terry, even Jalen Smith, these guys are going to look at this and go, look, man, we have gone through the fire, so to speak. And look, we've come out on the other end. And we've found something in our games, and I think that they are going to really build off of that confidence and go from there. And so anyway, let me know in the comments here what you're thinking about this. Do you think that, yes, the Chicago Bulls, they are really going to open some things up here, not only this season, but next season with the winning habits, playing the right way, the effort, now having to play major roles, the playing style that they've had here, and the player development? I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. And so as we always say around here, go Bulls, and look, we'll see you on the post game. All right, peace.